The Falcons walked off. Let that sink in. An entire NFL roster stopping practice. Helmets coming off. Drills abandoned. Coaches stunned on the sideline. In that moment, Kevin Stefanski didn't just lose control of a practice, he may have lost the locker room. And when you lose the locker room in this league, everything else starts collapsing fast. Now the question hanging over Atlanta is unavoidable. Can he survive this? Or is his coaching career already circling the drain?
Reporters to go in the way they went in today. But they had some receipts on Kevin Stefanski, and they damn sure for to make his time in Atlanta a very, very tough one, because he cannot escape what he has done to Shedeur Sanders. I ain't lying. Oh, I ain't like, God is good, man. God is good. Kevin Stefanski had his greeting press conference today down in Atlanta, and I thought it was only right, since
Kevin Stefanski and new president of football, Matt Ryan, a lot of respect within that Atlanta Falcons organization for the job that Kevin Stefanski has done over the past several years with the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, this past season, when he had 4 quarterbacks but didn't really have 1 quarterback, certainly not holding against him the record there in Cleveland this past season. So this started to look like it could happen late this morning, and the Atlanta Falcons wanted to move quickly.
Before we dive deeper, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a second of this unfolding QB drama. What if your new head coach walks into the building carrying baggage so heavy it poisons the air before week 1? What if the same controversy that followed him out of Cleveland explodes before he even calls a real game in Atlanta? That's exactly what happened. From the day Stefanski arrived, players knew the history. They knew about Shedeur Sanders. They knew about the tension, the subtle benchings, the public comments that never quite matched what showed up on tape. They heard the whispers about film study narratives, about development, about leadership questions. And yet, despite all of that noise, Shedeur didn't fold. He didn't lash out. He didn't crumble. He put his head down, kept working, and somehow still emerged with Pro Bowl recognition, forcing the league to acknowledge what his own coach seemed reluctant to admit. So when Stefanski stood in front of the Atlanta locker room and started talking about quarterbacks who leaned on their last names, quarterbacks who didn't put in enough work, quarterbacks who collapsed when pressure hit, everyone knew who he meant. He never said Shedeur Sanders. He didn't have to. Veterans shifted in their seats. Rookies glanced around. The silence in that meeting room wasn't confusion, it was disbelief. Because many of those players had watched the Cleveland situation closely. They'd studied the tape. They'd seen the grind. They knew what was real. This wasn't about play design. This wasn't about a coaching point gone slightly too far. This was about character, about rewriting someone's work ethic in a room full of men who pride themselves on theirs. And that's where the fuse was lit.
A good day for Kevin Stefanski in Atlanta, bruh. They let it be known. How do you plan on turning this team around when you did absolutely nothing in Cleveland? For 6 damn seasons, you did nothing. How was you going to develop a quarterback when you did absolutely nothing with the rookie quarterbacks that you had? Not only did you have 1 rookie quarterback, you had 2, dog. Y'all, listen to this. Listen to this. Now, I ain't going to play this whole thing in its entirety.
3 weeks into training camp at the Falcons facility in Flowery Branch, tension had already been simmering. The front office sold the roster on a fresh start. They insisted Stefanski had learned from Cleveland. They emphasized growth, accountability, maturity. Players were asked to judge him on what he would do in Atlanta, not what happened before. Most of them tried. Then Thursday happened. The meeting started like any other. Accountability, preparation, quarterback standards, championship habits. But then Stefanski shifted tone. He described a quarterback with all the talent in the world, who lacked discipline, someone who skipped extra reps, someone who relied on a famous father instead of film study, someone who folded when the lights got bright. You could feel the temperature drop, because that description clashed with what these players saw from Shedeur. They saw resilience, they saw poise, they saw a young quarterback navigate chaos and still deliver in clutch moments. They saw leadership under fire. Practice that afternoon felt heavy from the first whistle. Energy was flat. Communication was short. Then during a full team period, Stefanski made another pointed remark about quarterbacks who couldn't read defenses and made poor decisions. That's when the moment happened. Kyle Pitts stopped mid-route. No dramatic gesture, no shouting. He simply pulled off his helmet and walked off the field. Calm, deliberate, controlled. Within seconds, the ripple effect began. Offensive linemen straightened up. A wide receiver slowed to a jog, then stopped completely. Defensive backs looked around in confusion. The entire drill unraveled in real time. Stefanski barked for everyone to reset, demanded focus, threatened consequences. No one moved. Then veteran leader Grady Jarrett stepped forward, in front of the entire roster, and according to multiple witnesses, he said what everyone else was thinking. "Coach, we know who you're talking about, and it's not true. We watched Shedeur work. We watched him study. We watched him show up every day. We saw him earn the Pro Bowl while fighting uphill. Don't stand here and tell us he didn't grind. Don't say he relied on his name. And don't say he folded under pressure when the pressure was coming from the sideline." 10 seconds of silence followed. 10 seconds that may define this season. Stefanski tried to backpedal, claimed he was misunderstood, said no specific player was mentioned. But credibility isn't about technicalities, it's about trust. And trust had just fractured. One by one, players followed Pitts toward the facility. More than half the roster left the field. Not to quit, not to abandon the team. They gathered in the meeting room instead. Unified, calm, focused. They weren't staging chaos. They were drawing a line. Ownership was notified immediately. Arthur Blank reportedly arrived quickly and met with team leaders for hours. The Stefanski hire was always controversial because of the Cleveland cloud. One of the clear expectations was simple. Leave it there. Don't relitigate it. Don't weaponize it. Instead, he reopened it. Players' demands were straightforward. Publicly acknowledge the mischaracterization. Apologize. Commit to coaching rooted in truth, not narrative. Because without trust, no scheme works. Without respect, no playbook sticks. Critics are already labeling the walkout unprofessional. But here's the distinction that matters. Tough coaching challenges effort. Character attacks question integrity. Those are not the same thing. There's a reason this resonated beyond Atlanta. Around the league, current and former players quietly voiced support. They understand what it means when a coach's words stop matching reality. They know that once players feel misrepresented, it spreads fast. Shedeur handled his situation differently because he had to. As a rookie, leverage is limited. He responded with performance. Atlanta's veterans have leverage, and they used it. By standing up, they sent a message that their locker room will not normalize narratives they believe are false. Now the franchise stands at a crossroads. Can a coach recover once half the roster walks off the field? Can meetings repair what public trust fractures? Can authority function without credibility? This isn't just about one comment. It's about whether players believe their head coach sees them honestly. Because once doubt creeps in, every correction feels personal. Every critique feels loaded. Every meeting carries tension. The Falcons didn't walk off because of one drill. They walked off because of accumulated doubt crystallized into one moment. So where does this go next? Does Stefanski own it and rebuild? Or does pride double down and widen the divide? Does the front office step in aggressively? Or hope it cools off? One thing is certain, the honeymoon is over before it began. The locker room has spoken. And in the NFL, when the locker room speaks that loudly, the ripple effects don't fade quietly. The Falcons walked off. Not in chaos, in unity. So, don't skip a single second of this video. And if this story touches your heart, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments. Where are you watching from? Let's begin. Now the entire league is watching what happens next.